I had the perfect life. Or at least that's what I thought. A loving husband, a beautiful home, a career I adored. We had been married for 5 years and were very happy. Or so I believed. And then one Tuesday night, someone knocked on our door. And my entire world collapsed. If you're here because you love stories about betrayal, family secrets, and revelations that change everything, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on notifications. Because the story I'm about to tell is so shocking, you won't believe it actually happened. My name is Rachel. And in a single night, I discovered that my husband had another life. A life he had hidden from me completely. It all started with a knock on the door. It was a Tuesday, around 8 in the evening. I was making dinner. My husband, David, was in the home office working. When I opened the door, I saw a woman standing there. She was about 35, with brown hair, and her eyes were red from crying. "Can I speak to David?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, but who are you?" I replied, completely confused. "My name is Sarah," she said. I am David's wife." My heart just stopped. The words didn't make sense. It had to be a mistake. It had to be a joke. But when I looked at her face, I saw real anguish. I saw desperation. I saw someone who was telling the truth. "What are you saying?" I asked, my voice getting higher and higher. "My name is Sarah Chun. I married David 15 years ago. I had a daughter with him. Her name is Lily. She's 13. And we disappeared 10 years ago, in a car accident. But now we're back. And he doesn't know we're here." I let Sarah in. I'm not sure why. I think part of me needed to know more. I needed to understand what she was talking about. David came out of the office, and when he saw Sarah, the blood drained completely from his face. He turned pale. Scared. "Sarah," he whispered. "How did you?" "We need to talk," she said. "All of us." If you're as shocked as I was in that moment, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because this story is about to get even more insane. We sat in the living room. Sarah began to tell her story. She and David had married when they were very young, at 20. They had a daughter, Lily, when they were 22. But their marriage was troubled. Full of fights, infidelity, emotional abuse. Sarah said David was controlling, jealous, sometimes violent. 10 years ago, Sarah had planned to leave. She had saved money. She had a plan. She was going to take Lily and disappear. Just vanish from their lives. But before she could do that, there was an accident. Sarah and Lily were driving on a rainy night. Another car hit them. Sarah lost consciousness. When she woke up in the hospital, she was told that Lily had survived but was in a coma. The doctors didn't know if she would wake up. And there was another problem. The police were looking for Sarah. Because when David couldn't find her the next day, he panicked. He went to the police and reported Sarah as missing. But he also reported them. He told the police that she had threatened him. That she had said she would take Lily away. That she was dangerous. Sarah was in the hospital. Lily was in a coma. And David convinced the doctors and the police that Sarah was a dangerous mother. That she had caused the accident intentionally. That she was emotionally unstable. Based solely on David's word, the police removed Sarah's legal rights over Lily. David became the sole guardian. And when Sarah fully woke up in the hospital, she had no right to see her own daughter. No right to speak to her. Nothing. My eyes filled with tears as I listened to this. My husband, the man I had slept with every night for the past 5 years, had done something so terrible? What happened next? I asked, my voice barely audible. Sarah took a deep breath. I tried to fight it legally, but I had no money for a good lawyer. David had all the connections. He had his friends on the police force. He had convinced everyone that I was the villain. So I gave up. I left town. I changed my last name back to my maiden name. I tried to disappear. But for 10 years, I never stopped thinking about Lily. I never stopped wondering if she would wake up. If she would be safe with David. If she would remember me. And then, a few months ago, I got a call from a hospital in Denver. Lily had woken up from her coma. She had been awake for years, actually, since 2 years after the accident. And she had asked to find me. David never told her about me. He never told her the truth about the accident. He created a story where I had died. Lily grew up believing her mother had died in an accident that she survived. And she blamed herself. For years, she blamed herself. Feel the anger I was feeling in that moment. If this story is affecting you, like this video. Share it with someone who needs to know that sometimes the danger lives in our own home. David was white as a sheet. He didn't even try to deny it. He didn't even try to defend himself. Lily found me 2 months ago, Sarah continued. She got access to the hospital records. She found my name. She looked me up. And when we spoke for the first time in 10 years, she asked me to come here. To confront her father. To know why he lied to her. To know why he let her grow up thinking her mother had died. David finally spoke. Sarah, you don't understand. I did what was best for Lily. You lied to her. Sarah screamed. You controlled her. You kept her away from me. You did exactly to me and Lily what you did to Rachel. You built an entire life of lies. And then I understood. David wasn't a man. He was a pattern. A predator who built relationships based on lies and control. And I was just his latest victim. Leave a comment telling me, do you think David knew Rachel would be so gullible? Or did he believe he could keep both wives deceived indefinitely? In the following days, the whole truth came out. David had married me while he was still technically married to Sarah. Our marriage was invalid. Everything we thought we had built was based on a fundamental lie. But there was more. David hadn't met Sarah by chance when he was 20. He had deliberately sought her out. He knew she came from a wealthy family. He married her for her money. When the money ran out, when Sarah realized what he was doing and asked for a divorce, he planned the whole accident. Or at least, that's what Sarah believed. The police reopened the case. Investigators revisited the accident from 10 years ago. And they discovered inconsistencies. The other car that hit Sarah and Lily? Its insurance records had been altered. The driver who supposedly hit them? He never existed. It was a fake identity created by someone who had access to traffic records. Someone like David, who had a friend who worked in the traffic department. David confessed everything. He had staged the accident. He had paid a driver to make it look like an accident. And when Sarah disappeared into the hospital, he realized he had an opportunity. He could start a new life. He could marry again. To me. And that's exactly what he did. He met me a year after Sarah disappeared. He met me in a bar. He won me over with stories of his sad past. How his ex-wife had mysteriously disappeared. How he was so hurt. How he needed someone who would love him unconditionally. And I fell for it. Completely. Head over heels. For a man who was a criminal. A man who had tried to kill his ex-wife and daughter. A man who built an entire life of lies. If this doesn't make you afraid of not really knowing the people you love, subscribe to the channel for more true stories about betrayal and secrets. The police arrested David. There was a trial. He was convicted of attempted murder, marriage fraud, forgery, and several other crimes. He received 25 years in prison. And I was left alone. But not all was lost. Sarah, who had every right to be filled with anger at me for having married her husband without knowing the truth, chose to be kind. She understood that I was a victim just like her. Maybe not in the same way, but a victim nonetheless. Sarah and I developed a friendship. We supported each other through therapy, through the legal processes, through the grief of losing someone we trusted completely. And Lily? Lily was rage. Healthy rage. Justified rage. She had spent years believing her mother had died. She had spent years blaming herself for the accident. She had grown up with a father who was a criminal. And now she was discovering that everything in her life had been a carefully constructed lie. But she also had her mother back. And eventually, with time and therapy, she began to process it all. She began to understand that it wasn't her fault. That she was a victim of a situation that was completely out of her control. A year after David was arrested, Sarah, Lily, and I went to a family counselor together. A counselor who had experience with families that have been traumatized by crime and lies. And slowly, gradually, we began to heal. It wasn't easy. It won't be easy. It will probably take years. But we managed to find a way to be together. To be a family, even if it's not a traditional family. Sarah and Lily moved into my house. Because when everything went down, David left me with the house. With nothing else. No explanations. No apologies. Just prison and silence. But the house became a refuge. It became a place where 3 women who were deceived, manipulated, and hurt by one man could lean on each other. Let me tell you some of the details that emerged during the investigation. Because the more they investigated, the more lies they discovered. The more they dug, the darker it all got. David had a type. A specific victim. Young women from wealthy families. Women who had inheritances or access to money. Women who had low self-esteem and were desperate for validation. He had married Sarah for money. When Sarah started to see through his lies, when she started to question his controlling behavior, he realized she was going to leave him. And when she left, she would take her money with her. So he planned the accident. But it wasn't just to get rid of Sarah. It was to get rid of the baggage. Lily was a reminder of his previous life. A reminder of when he was still building his wealth. When he was still working to earn other people's money. The police discovered that David had done this before. Before Sarah. There was a woman in another state. Her name was Jennifer. She had disappeared 15 years ago. She was never found. When the police started investigating Jennifer, they discovered she had been wealthy. Her family had searched for her for years. Eventually, they gave up. They gave up on finding her. They assumed she was dead. David was never charged with Jennifer's disappearance. There was no concrete evidence. But the police suspected. The police knew. And we all knew. He had killed one woman. Deceived another. And tried to kill an innocent daughter. And he had done all this while presenting himself as a victim. While asking for pity. While winning me over with stories of his sadness. I had to accept that my instincts were completely wrong. That the people we love can be hiding horrible things. That charisma is a tool that dangerous people use. I started therapy. Intensive therapy. Because you can't find out you married a potential serial criminal without needing to process trauma. My therapist helped me understand that it wasn't my fault. That predators like David are trained in manipulation. That they study their victims. That they learn exactly what to say, what to do, how to act to gain trust. He had studied me. He had observed my lonely childhood, my desire for marriage, my fear of being alone. And he had exploited it all. But there was also hope. Because despite everything, Sarah, Lily, and I managed to come together. We managed to turn trauma into connection. We managed to turn a horrible situation into an opportunity for healing. Sarah started working with agencies that help abused women. Women in situations like hers. Women who have been manipulated and deceived. Lily became an activist. She speaks in schools about recognizing signs of abuse. About not blindly believing people's stories. About questioning things. And me? I started writing. I started telling my story. I started warning other women. Because if my horrific experience could prevent someone else from suffering the same, then there was meaning in it. We testified at David's trial. All 3 of us. And when the judge pronounced the sentence, 25 years in prison, I felt relief. Not just because he couldn't hurt us anymore. But because other women were safe. Because he couldn't deceive anyone else. Although there is still the matter of Jennifer. The woman who disappeared 15 years ago. Her family never knew what happened to her. Her mother died without knowing. And David refuses to say where she is. He refuses to give her family the closure they deserve. Some days, I think about Jennifer. I think about how she was also a victim. How she was also deceived by a man who later killed her. How she never had the chance that Sarah had, to find her daughter again. To try to heal. And it enrages me. Every day it enrages me. But what I've learned is that anger needs a purpose. Anger needs to be channeled into something constructive. So I got involved in campaigns to change the laws. To ensure that husbands can't keep wives in secret abusive relationships. To ensure that women have rights even when they are in a coma. If this story is inspiring you to act, to question, to be more vigilant with the people in your life, leave a comment telling me. Because stories like this, terrible stories, only have value if they change the future. And as for Rachel, me, I'm still processing it all. Some days are better than others. Some days, still waking up in the bed I shared with David is horrible. But every day gets a little better. Sarah and Lily helped me understand that I am not weak. That I shouldn't blame myself for being deceived by a man who was a professional at manipulation. That I am a survivor. We are all survivors. Our relationship now is not romantic. Not like what I planned when I married David. But it's more honest. It's more real. And in some ways, it's stronger than any romantic relationship could be. Because it's built on truth. It's built on mutual support. It's built on fighting trauma together. If this story shocked you, leave a comment telling me which part affected you the most. If you think you could recognize a predator like David. If you think you could forgive like Sarah forgave me. Because forgiveness is the hardest thing anyone can do. And Sarah forgave me for marrying the man who destroyed her life. She forgave me before I even apologized. Because she understood that I was a victim too. And victims don't need to fight each other. They need to unite. That is the most important message of this story. It's not about the crime. It's not about the trial. It's not about how one man deceived two women. It's about how two women who had every right to hate each other chose to help each other instead. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my story. Subscribe to the channel for more true stories about secrets, betrayal, and how people can recover from the worst. Remember, we can't always control what happens to us. But we can control how we respond. And sometimes, the bravest response is to choose to forgive. To choose to heal. To choose to move forward.